In this video, I'm going to show you how easy it is to make a gluten-free potato focaccia using naturally gluten-free flours. You'll be surprised at how soft and light it turns out with just a few simple ingredients. I'll be making two different doughs. One with 150 grams of rice flour and 150 grams of chickpea flour, and the other with 150 grams of rice flour and 150 grams of buckwheat flour. First, we'll start with 240 grams of lukewarm water and dissolve 6 grams of fresh yeast or 2 grams of active dry yeast in it. Then we'll add 1 teaspoon of maple syrup or a similar sweetener and stir well. Now we just mix the dry ingredients. Pour in the liquids and stir until everything comes together. I'll do the same with the other flour mix. By the way, this year you're going to see me cooking a lot more. We'll be exploring all kinds of Italian dishes that can be easily made gluten-free or dairy-free with little to no changes. So if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. Comparing the two doughs, we can see that, just like traditional flours, naturally gluten-free ones also have different absorption rates. The buckwheat mix still has some dry flour left, so I'm adding a bit more water to balance it out. After baking both versions and checking the texture, I'd say the ideal amount of water for these mixes is around 270-280 grams. The right consistency should be something like this, a soft paste, but not too runny. Now we add 1 full teaspoon of psyllium husk and stir until combined. Be careful not to overdo it. Too much psyllium can make the crumb as rubbery as the outsole of your grandpa's old slippers from the 70s. Or worse, it could cause some serious digestive issues. Next, we are adding 100 grams of boiled mashed potatoes. Here I'm adding a little extra to show you the difference. 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, and 1 tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. Mix everything together until well incorporated, making sure to mash the potatoes into the dough if needed. In the meantime, there's something I've been holding in for a while. You know, there's absolutely nothing wrong with sharing pictures of your creations when you're proud of how they turned out. And there's also nothing wrong with using commercial mixes every now and then to recreate a recipe you've been craving. But with the rise of social media, some people might become too obsessed with food aesthetics and showing off, forgetting that food is actually meant to nourish your body and keep you healthy and strong. When you're using naturally gluten-free flours without relying on enhancers and other chemicals, it's normal for the end product to be a little less picture perfect. And that's totally fine. Just remember, a daily or excessive intake of starches and other substances can lead to inflammation, health issues and weight gain. We are going to bake the two doughs in 2 different baking pans, both lined with baking paper. One pan is smaller than the other. Add the dough to each pan. Now I'll warn you, this part is a bit tricky and requires patience. The baking paper underneath the dough tends to slide around, making it harder to keep everything in place while you are smoothing out the surface. The dough isn't liquid enough, and that's totally fine. If it were runnier, you'd end up with a crumb that's too moist, which would stick to your mouth when chewing. Definitely not pleasant. To make this step a bit easier, you can use some oil, or even better, water. Don't worry if there's a little water left on the surface. The dough will absorb it as it rises. Once the surface looks smooth enough, we'll let the dough rise in a warm place, like inside the oven, until it doubles in volume. This should take about a couple of hours. After the rising time, we can move on to topping the surface. In the meantime, preheat your oven to 200 degrees Celsius. Drizzle some extra virgin olive oil and a little water on top. You can try to mix on dimples, but honestly, it's not really necessary, since they'll probably fade during baking. Anyway, don't press too hard. Remember, the dough doesn't have elasticity. If you press too hard, you'll just end up deflating the bread. I'm going to leave one focaccia plain and top the other with sliced potatoes that I soaked in cold water, then flavored with olive oil, salt and pepper. If you want to see the whole process, check out the video linked in the description box. Bake the focaccia for 15 minutes, then you can add another 5 minutes on grill mold for extra browning if you like. Let the focaccia rest for a little while after baking. Then remove the baking paper to let it cool down completely. This is the chickpea focaccia without the topping, which had less water and more potato. The surface is a little cracked, so I'd definitely recommend adding some fancy toppings to hide the cracks. The crumb is properly cooked and soft, but not as airy. On the other hand, using the right balance of ingredients in the other dough led to a crumb that's very close to the traditional Italian focaccia. You might be surprised to know the traditional version actually doesn't aim for big bubbles at all. There's no need for big bubbles. I'm sure this focaccia will surprise you with its softness, lightness and delicate flavor. Thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.